In Ohio, we want it now. House Bill 269, State Representative John Becker introduced that bill, hasn't gotten a hearing yet. Mike Davila from Cuyahoga County, who is the chairman of that committee, hasn't brought it up for a hearing yet. But there has been a number of pieces of legislation that have moved through the Ohio legislature. And let's take a look at the sheet that I passed out to you. Some of you might have to share. I'm sorry for a short copy tonight. Look on the reverse side. And first of all, it says, there's the list of counties that we conducted the audit in. It ended up taking a year. We pulled poll worker notes and incident reports from Election Day, November 6, 2012. Well, what's an incident report? That's Form 450 of the Secretary of State. It's when an issue rises to a higher level concern of fraud or suspicion of fraud, and that's to be submitted back to the board and then sent on to the Secretary of State. What we found out is some of the counties were not forwarding them back on to the Secretary of State. So when he came out a couple days after the election, said things worked really well here in Ohio. Well, he changed his tune after, first of all, when 1 week later, on November 12th, we put out our statement. I got a call the next day from John Houston. He said, "Chris, what's going on?" I said, "John, we're getting a lot of reports all around the state. We're going to start, following up on them. We're going to put together a report for you." He said, "Well, I'm going to need sworn statements. Going to need affidavits." I said, "You'll get them. This won't be hearsay. This will be eyewitness reports," and that's what we presented to him. So we started collecting them. Well, why eyewitness reports? Because the poll workers note, if there's an incident, they're to mark that in the book, and then that goes back to the board, and then the board can make that available to the Secretary of State, or they can deal with it internally. Form 450 is different because that's a document that says this is to be forwarded on to the Secretary of State. That's how he's notified of a problem down on the local level. If they don't notify the boss, he doesn't know there's been a problem. And some of the counties don't want to do that because they don't want to tell the boss, "Hey, we got a problem here." Just like it works. Somebody doesn't want to tell the boss it was a problem. "Oh, we'll fix it. We'll take care of it." That's not what we're doing here. He needs to be aware of issues down at the local level. Isn't that right? Yep. So Medina, that's a conservative county. Their Board of Elections, they presented unto us a short stack of incident reports with a cover sheet that said, "The board did not determine anything within these reports necessary to forward on the Secretary of State." It's not their call. Let him decide that. So we're bringing all this to his attention. And actually, there were some serious problems in Medina County. And so we had to collect some sworn statements. When there wasn't a poll worker's note or an incident report, we had then people write sworn statements. We also found out afterwards that people can fill out a Form 450 after the fact, okay? And then they submit that to the Board of Election and then on to the Secretary of State as well. So we did all that. Now, here's some of the things that we found. Let's go back to this business of the 3 days of voting before the November Tuesday election. Ma'am, when you went in on that Tuesday, were you given a list of names to check off of people that voted in the days early? Absentee? Yeah, that voted absentee. Was there a long list? You got a smaller precinct? Well, this was in Cuyahoga County, and there's a lady who worked the polls, and she was given this long list of names. Okay? And we're talking about, you don't have much time before that door opens and they'll start coming in, right? Yeah. So you talk about the possibility of human error. And this is all going back to that federal judge, by the way. See, the board would have done this before if they had those 3 days to close down early voting, have that little window of time, fix the poll books, then the poll worker would know who voted early and who didn't. This way, they had to mark an A next to each name. So Doris DeRica did that in her precinct, only to discover that she was on the list, didn't vote early. Her daughter was on the list, didn't vote early. Her neighbor was on the list, didn't vote early. All these people started coming in. She's got to provide them a provisional ballot. She said, "You're in the book." "I didn't vote early. I've never voted early." You're in the book as voting early. Only had the board come in midday to swap out the list with no explanation. So all these people had to vote provisional. This is back to that federal judge. This wasn't one location. This was all over the state. It created havoc. So, what we said is no more of this stuff by federal judges ordering voting in the last 3 days before an election, the boards need time to fix all that. It says here in number 4, early voting should not be the weekend before the election. You know, the media really hammered us on that one, because I think the liberals really want that. Number 3, replace faulty machines, kind of going backwards here. Voters lose confidence in the voting process when machines malfunction. And a lady down there, not just in the big counties like Franklin County, Guernsey County, okay? I think they have more cows there than people, but she goes in to vote, 84-year-old lady, not on the internet, she heard our broadcast. And she called in and said, I had a problem in my county, and I went in to vote, and every candidate I picked, the opposite candidate came up. So she went over to the poll worker and she said, hey, this isn't working. She said, oh, we've been having trouble with that machine all day. And you know what? They didn't fix it. So she did a sworn statement. Okay? This is the kind of stuff that has, by the way, I'm going to have a real long sit down with John Houston. We're going to be at it for a couple of hours. Okay? John's done some good things, though. We're going to get to that. Because he wanted to get out ahead of this. And so he called me that next day. And by the way, May 23rd of 2013, he delivered, and I wish I had a copy for everybody tonight, but I will send you the link so they can print it off, okay? And that is the first ever, kind of looks like this so you'll know what it looks like. First ever voter fraud, let's see, 2012 post-general election voter fraud report, first ever from the Secretary of State statewide, in response to our audit. He then collected information from the various boards of election, found 625 voting irregularities reported. 135 total cases referred to local law enforcement for prosecution of voter fraud. This was May 23rd. 1 week later, 90 cases of double voting in Franklin County were reported by the board. 1 week after his report. The number's growing. See, 135, 90, and then this report out of Hamilton County. Let's go ahead and roll the tape. Wait, can you see all this, or do you need these lights off here? Oh, good.
Madisonville woman accused of voting twice in...
This is Hamilton County and Cincinnati. This is a report that came out of there. Some of you have seen this already, but I think it's helpful. Just kind of restart it, and then it should... I have the same problem with my laptop. Go ahead.
Madison.
You know, maybe click out of it and go back into it. How do you click out of it? Do you have a Apple machine?
No.
This should do it.
Madisonville woman accused of voting.
Just go ahead and let the sound play and we'll talk about it. See what comes up.
Kind of like the voting machine.
Yes.
Twice in last November's election. Tonight strongly denies committing voter fraud.
The I-Team first reported this story yesterday, and 9 on Your Side reporter Tom McKee is live now with her reaction. It's a story you'll see only on 9. Tom?
Ontario Democrat Meloise Richardson
So it won't even play then.
has worked in Hamilton County polling places since 1988. She's also registered thousands of people to vote, most of them for President Obama. But this report suggests she may have gone too far, and she's going to have to appear before the Hamilton County Board of Elections to explain her